Hey, so again, welcome to our circle. If you are new here, I'm Katrina. My business partner Cheryl and I are the Profit Savvy Sisters, and we help small business owners just like you turn more of your revenue into profit so you can successfully fund all of your dreams and your financial future. So let's talk about what we are chatting about today. So we had a client, let's call her Anna, who had no idea why the chart of accounts mattered, let alone how to set it up. She came to us as a new business owner, and it's part of setting up your software. And we were having a session with her, just going over how you set up QuickBooks, what everything means, and how to do it. And she tried to skip over the chart of accounts part and just like how you can just keep clicking continue. You don't want to do that. So at the end of the day, this is where all of your financial transactions file into so you can get your financial reports. So this is a very crucial, important part of setting up your books, and it doesn't have to be difficult. So let's go ahead and jump in. You can trust yourself when you are setting this up. Remember, this is your business that you're setting up the books for. So we have a few guidelines, some tricks that you can try out and follow to ensure that you are setting yourself up for success. So I'm going to show you how to understand the chart of accounts, how does everything feed into the financial reports, and how you can fix mistakes that you maybe have previously made or make while you're trying to get it set up, so you can have a clean chart of accounts. You know where everything is leading to, you know what all the bucket means, and you can understand everything. This is going to help keep your books clean, keep it simple, so you can understand the financial health of what your books are in. So let's go ahead and dig in. Okay, so your chart of accounts. It's important to remember that this is the backbone of your accounting. It's what labels all of your transactions and gives them a home of where they belong in your business and in your books. So you can think of each account as a bucket where you're putting each of your transactions for your business. So you can make it personalized to your business specifically, but it's important to keep in mind you don't want everything to be micro detailed. Otherwise, your profit and loss statement would be massive, and there's no reason to make it that complicated. All right, so when you open QuickBooks, this is the screen that you should be seeing here when you're looking at all of your transactions. So what we're going to do is go to a different section, and you're going to open up your tabs over here to this little calculator, your bookkeeping tab, and open up your chart of accounts. I have saved it as a favorite because it's a good reference point, and you should be familiar with your chart of accounts. So you can do this a couple different ways where you're going to organize your chart of accounts. Option number one is you can import your chart of accounts. So this is typically used when you're setting up a clean set of books and you have a chart of accounts provided to you in terms of like an Excel or a Google Sheets format, more of like a list. And they're typically industry specific, and you can get them from, if you're working with a bookkeeper or a tax accountant, sometimes they have industry specific chart of accounts that you can import right into your QuickBooks Online account. So generally, when you are going through the setup of QuickBooks Online, they're going to ask you some questions, and they're going to dump the chart of accounts for you. It's kind of like they build it out in the beginning to be helpful for you. Now, this is a sample company that we're working in here, so there are some transactions already added. But what you're going to want to do, and I'm just going to quickly show you some examples. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you can go through all of these, and you're going to want to make them inactive. So it's going to have you confirm, yes, I want it to be inactive. And this is going to clean up your chart of accounts because there's going to be a lot of categories in here that aren't really applicable to you or your industry. They just kind of add chaos to your books, and you don't really need them. So for example, Let's say QuickBooks uploaded this all by itself, and I don't even use all of these job materials. So I can go through and make them inactive. And that's going to take it out of my view for the chart of accounts. So we'll just go through a few of those so you can see what it looks like. And there are a few categories that QuickBooks won't let you delete. So let's see. Undeposited funds is one. So if you go to make this inactive, it's going to say you're not allowed to make it inactive. So that's fine. So that's one that the software is telling you have to keep in your chart of accounts, which is good because you want to have undeposited funds there anyway. So what you're going to do, if you do have that list to import, you're going to come up here to new. You're going to select import. You're going to look for it here. I had this downloaded. You're going to hit next. They're going to want you to verify that all of the lines are mapped correctly to the chart of accounts that you're importing. So yes, these are all good. And then it's going to give you the list of what it's actually pulling over. So since this is a verified list that I know I want to pull over, I'm just going to briefly look through it. If this was a general list that I was importing, you can go through it and delete the ones that aren't applicable to you by unchecking this box here. So, well, I don't really ever do team member advances, so that's not necessary to be in my list. I don't have any prepaid expenses that I track, so that doesn't need to be on my list. I don't have any land or buildings that I need to account for in terms of an asset, so that doesn't have to be on my list. And then you can import from there. And if there are any duplicates that are already in the chart of accounts, they're going to notify you here. So undeposited funds was on that list, but I already have it. And the same for all of these expenses as well. So fine, no problem. You can just X out of that because I don't need those ones. And as you can see, it brought in 62 of the 69 accounts because 7 of those were duplicates. And so now I have all of those in my chart of accounts. So that's another way to go through it. And again, if you added it by accident, you can go through and make them inactive here. If you make an account inactive by accident, you can go up to this gear icon and just select include inactive. And you'll see them listed here where it says deleted. And you can always just make it active again. So no big deal. So let's talk about how you can create the chart of accounts manually. So again, let's say you're coming into your books for the first time. You don't have a nifty little list that you are going to import. You have to go through it manually and create your chart of accounts that you're going to be working with. And again, keep in mind your chart of accounts is what you're going to be dumping all of your transactions into a specific bucket. So let's say this money market of Bank of America. Well, I don't have that bank account. So I don't need that one. I'm going to go through and make it inactive. So just like step 1 last time, you're going to go through all of the items in your chart of accounts and make the ones that aren't applicable to your business and make them inactive. This is going to give you a really clean and concise chart of accounts to help keep your records clean. So remember, this chart of accounts, as you are creating it, it is simply a template. And it's not something that once you set it up, you can't go back and make changes. For example, when you are working on your transactions in your bank feed, this is where you're going to see all your payments that are going in and out of your accounts. Let's say this one is Pam. Okay. And she's in advertising. Well, say I want to break out my advertising. She's a photographer and I want to make note of that. You can go into an expense. Add in here. And now it's added to your chart of accounts. So you can come back here and see how it's added. So now that's added to your chart of accounts. So just a couple tips and tricks to keep in mind when you are building out your chart of accounts. Remember, you don't want to keep any super vague accounts in there that don't mean anything to you as a business owner. You want to keep them specific enough that when a bookkeeper or a tax accountant is looking at these chart of accounts, they're going to know exactly what's in there. So for marketing and advertising, you want to list it as so. For contractors, you want to list it as so. You don't just want to list something super vague that when you go to look at it later, it's not going to mean anything to you. And remember, you can always add transactions through the bank feed. So if you don't set it up perfectly that first time, you can always go back and update it. It doesn't need to be a big deal. And be sure you are adding each vendor if you are adding that transaction from the bank feed, because that's going to help you know things are clean and specific. And please, one of my biggest pieces of advice for you is if you see anything listed as an uncategorized expense, an uncategorized asset, uncategorized income, that is not helpful to any bookkeepers. It is not helpful to you as a business owner. If you're looking back on data, you'll see that account on there and you'll have no idea what it's for. So please never use the uncategorized expenses, uncategorized assets, or income for any of your transactions. That bucket is a mystery and it doesn't tell anybody anything. And remember, don't get too nitty gritty. It makes reporting really messy, really overcomplicated. And remember, you're trying to keep everything simple. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that answers some of your questions about chart of accounts, what it means, and what it's used for. If you have any questions or comments, please comment below. We would love to hear from you guys. And as always, cheers to profit.